So the last type of division that we're going to use is going to be long division. So you probably haven't done long division in a while. I actually teach long division a little bit differently, particularly for polynomials. Long division of just numbers or integers, I would do the same, but polynomial is a little bit different. We only divide this way when the numerator is prime and you're unable to factor either by greatest common factor or tic-tac-toe. So let's talk about that. I'll show you why we have to do this. You don't necessarily need to write this down, but I would definitely pay attention. Okay. So on Friday, we learned that dividing, I could just tic-tac-toe the numerator, and I should see that this is one of my factors. So if I try that, so let's say I tic-tac-toe my numerator. And I plug in my pieces here. So I have x squared minus 7x minus 11. Well, they told me that I'm dividing by x minus 8. And so we learned the other day, on Friday again, that that should be one of my factors. So if I put x minus 8 here, I then just needed to look for, well, what is the other factor that's going to make this true? Well, you should already see 8 times nothing will ever get you 11, right? So there's nothing I can multiply 8 by to get negative 11. So because I can't factor it and use x minus 8 as a factor, then now I'm going to have to use long division. Even if you tried to factor this, so let's say I tried. Let's say I put x times x. Well, this 11 is only 11 and 1. 11 is prime, so I multiply across. 11x, 1x, there is no way that I could get negative 7 from 11 and 1. Impossible. So this trinomial is prime, and that's why then we have to use long division. So it's kind of a long, drawn-out reason why we do this. But okay, so we're going to use long division. Really important first that you have every single term. So make sure that you have an x squared term, an x term, and then a constant term. If you do not, you need to put a 0x or 0x squared or 0 in for that. Okay? That's really important. All right, so this is how we're going to divide using long division. Okay, so I'm going to draw a divide. Ooh, I made that way too big, so let's try that again. We're going to draw a division bar just like you would have done in elementary school. So, okay, apparently I still did not change that. Let's make that smaller. Try one more time. Still pretty big. One last time, hopefully. Okay, we'll go with that for now. So we're going to draw a division bar exactly like you would have done in elementary school. I'm going to make this actually a little bit longer. I'm going to cut it in half this way. On the outside, I'm going to put what I'm dividing by. Exactly like in elementary school, you put what are you dividing by out here. So we are dividing by x minus 8. So I'm going to put that out here. X, and I'm going to write it like this, minus 8. Okay. And then we're going to put in the first box, so this is kind of the tricky part. We're going to put in the very first box, so I'm going to make another box here. I'm going to put x squared. Then I got that x squared from here. I'll circle that in a color and show you that that's where that came from, x squared. Okay, so now this is where we're sort of dividing. We're saying that x times something that we're going to put up here is going to give us x squared. Well, just like factoring, we know that that's x, right? So x times x is going to give us x squared. Okay, so we're going to take that x and we're going to multiply it by the negative 8 and fill in this box. So x times negative 8 is going to be negative 8x. All right, so here's where it gets a little bit tricky. So we now have negative 8x. We want negative 7x because that's what's in our problem. So I need to figure out what do I add right here diagonally to negative 8x to get negative 7x instead. Well, I know that negative 7 is just one number higher than negative 8. It's one number closer to 0. So I'm actually going to add 1x or just x. So negative 8 plus 1 will give me negative 7. Okay, so now I'm looking at this again. Well, x times something will give me 1x. That x times something would be a positive 1, right? X times 1 would be 1x. Now I take that 1, I multiply it by the negative 8 down here to fill in that box. So 1 times negative 8 is going to be negative 8. Okay, so I'm going to draw this line again. Now I have negative 8. I don't want negative 8. I want negative 11. So this negative 11 is what I'm trying to get to. Again, I'm trying to figure out what do I add diagonally. So what do I add here to negative 8 to get negative 11? Well, negative 11 is 3 fewer than negative 8. So I know I need to subtract 3. At this point, I'm done with the long division. Now it's just a matter of writing my answer. This is my remainder. Okay, so we're going to write our answer like this. So our answer is what's on top, exactly like in elementary school whenever you were doing long division. Try to pick a different color. We'll go with gray. So our answer is this, but we also have this remainder. So that's really important. So our answer is going to be x plus 1. And then our remainder is negative 3. And hopefully you remember that you put your remainder over your divisor. What did you divide by? So we're going to put that negative 3 over x minus 8. We're going to divide it by what we divided by. So this is going to look a little funny. You could put a plus sign here, or I could have put that negative. So I could put a plus sign here. I could have put this negative out front. That means that that would be minus, basically. I'm going to go ahead and just put a plus there. Okay. So this is our remainder. This is what our problem is. So x plus 1 with a remainder of negative 3 divided by x minus 8. So they could ask for the whole answer. They might also ask for just the remainder. So in this case, negative 3 is our remainder. Okay, let's do another one. So this one we have every single term, n squared, we have an n term, we have a constant term. All right, again, I'm going to just assume at this point that these are all prime. I know that 9 times 2 will give me 18. 9 and 2 don't add to give me 10. 5 is definitely not a factor of 18, so there's no way that that's ever going to factor. So you could try if you want to try and tic-tac-toe, you could, but we're going to end up having to use long division anyways. So let's draw our little divide symbol. Yeah, we want to make it a little bit longer. We're going to kind of cut it in half. I'm going to go ahead and draw this line here. We're going to put on the outside, on the left-hand side, what we're dividing by. So we're dividing by n plus 5. All right, and then we're going to take our very first term, and that's where we start. We're going to start with n squared in our first box. So now we're looking at, well, n times what will give us n squared? Hopefully you know that that's n. Then we take that n here, and we multiply it by 5 to fill in this box. So n times 5 is 5n. So we have 5 n's. We don't want 5 n's. We want 10 n's. So I need to figure out what do I add to 5n to get to 10n. Well, 5n plus another 5n would give me 10n. Okay. So now, again, I'm looking at n times what would give me 5n. Well, that would have to be a positive 5. Okay. So then positive 5 times positive 5 is going to be positive 25. Okay. I don't want 25. I want 18. So I need to figure out what do I add to 18, or add to 25 to get to 18. Well, I know I'm going smaller, so actually I'm going to have to subtract. So it's going to be a negative. Right? So to get from 25 to 18, you're actually going to have to subtract 7. So 25 minus 5 would be 20, minus 2 more would be 18. So that's minus 7. This is our remainder. At that point, we're done because we've somehow got all of these terms. We got an n squared, we got a 10n, we got an 18 using these pieces. So this is our remainder. This is the first part of our answer. So we're going to write our answer as n plus 5, use a different color, n plus 5, and then you could put plus, or you could just put the minus 7 divided by n plus 5. So just a coincidence that these are the same thing. That does not normally work out there. Okay. Or not always, I guess not normally, but. Okay, let's do one that does not have a term in the middle. So like this one, we have a squared minus 28. We're missing the middle term. We have to put that in. So I'm going to rewrite this before I even start. I'm going to rewrite this as a squared minus 0a minus 28 divided by a minus 5. From here, now I will divide. So we're going to draw our division box. Our first term that we're going to fill in is a squared. On the outside, I'm putting what I'm dividing by. So my first question is a here times what up here that I'm going to put is going to give me a squared. That's a. A times a is a squared. Then I multiply. A times negative 5 is negative 5a. I don't want negative 5a. I want 0a. So now I have to decide, what do I add to negative 5 to get 0? Well, hopefully you know that would be the opposite, right? If we add opposites, we get 0. So we're going to add positive 5a. So now I go back here. Well, what do I put here to make this a true statement? A times what would be 5a? Well, that's positive 5. So now we multiply. 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. We don't want negative 25. We want negative 28. So what do I have to add to negative 25 to get negative 28? Well, this is a smaller negative, but a larger number. So I know it's going to be a subtract, right? I'm going to have to subtract something, and to get from 25 to 28, that's 3 more. So negative 3 is going to be our remainder. So this is our remainder. This is the first part of that answer. Okay. So we're going to rewrite that as then a plus 5. And then our remainder is minus 3 over, or divided by a minus 5 this time. And you could put a plus right there as well to combine those. Okay, we'll do some more in class. I get it is a little bit tricky, but if you have questions, please come in during WIN and ask.